I got 100K and I don't know what to do with it. I know it's not a lot of money in some people's case, but as a young business owner, what do you recommend I do with it? So,
How old is
young entrepreneur in his 20s, married, one young son, and he got 100 grand. What you doing with that money?
Well, first off, if he's that young and he's got 100 grand, that's pretty good because most young men don't have 100 grand. But secondly, if he wants to take it to the next level, he needs to take that money and dump it all. I say all of it. I'd say at least half of it into his brain, into his mind, into skills and knowledge, because he goes and takes that 100 grand and goes buys an asset that he has no skill set on how to manage, how to properly evaluate to make sure he buys it right. There's just so many skill sets that are needed into being an investor. Before you can, go and buy a rental property or a business and rehab that, you got to rehab this first. This is why 90% of people that start a business fail.
Welcome again to the Prime Mover Podcast, where we ignite the engine of your success in faith, family, finance, and fitness. Join us as we explore the power of being a prime mover in both your professional and personal life.
Let's dive into that again. But first, welcome to the Prime Mover Podcast, everybody, where we ignite the engine of your success through faith, family, finance, fitness, entrepreneurship. Man, prime mover means a lot to us. Obviously, we come from the engine and generator business, and that is considered a prime mover. But at the end of the day, a prime mover is somebody who is a thermostat, in my opinion, who shows up first, who gets the ball rolling every day, who is a self-starter. You're just the first person to show up, first piece of equipment to show up, first mindset to show up, to drive everything around you forward. You're a prime mover. And I try to only bring guests on here who justify and personify that. And I met Chris through social media and just randomly reached out to the guy. And most mentors, coaches, successful people want the opportunity to help others. The problem is most people are too scared to reach out. And so that's how I met Chris, through pursuing a relationship with people who I believe are prime movers. So Chris Rood of Lafayette, Louisiana, welcome to Prime Mover Podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, man, I appreciate having me on and being able to jump on a podcast with a local Louisianian, a Cajun, another Cajun, so to speak. So this is cool, man. I don't get to talk to. There's not too many people in Louisiana that have podcasts that I get on. So this would be cool.
We appreciate you coming on, Chris, for sure.
Yeah, man. So, even just to echo what you just said, yesterday, I'm in a couple of different, I call them masterminds, business groups, or whatever, just networking organizations all over the country. And yesterday, I looked at the feed on one of them called Real Business Owners, and I looked at the feed, and a guy put a question, and the bottom it said, "General contractor, Baton Rouge, Louisiana." I'm like, oh, I got to reach out to this guy. So, like, Louisiana people who are forward thinkers, entrepreneurs, man, if you're in Louisiana right now and you watch this, man, reach out, get on socials. Like, I want to go back to what Chris said prior to the intro. Was the young man asked me about this 100K, and I said, my gut said right out of the gate, don't do what you think you're going to do with it. Go invest it in education, man. The very first time I had an opportunity to step into a mastermind group, I looked at my wife and I said, babe, this was right after COVID. I said, babe, this thing is 10 grand. She's like, I trust you. And I didn't even trust myself. And I'm like, 10 grand, holy crap. Bro, I have 1,000x that $10,000 investment. And I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. And this took place post-COVID, sometime around early 2021. And what I've learned through networking and asking the right question and pursuing mentorship, I've traveled more distance as an entrepreneur in that shorter period of time than I did in the first 17 years of doing it. So Chris said, congratulations to the young man. You did something that most young men don't do.
100
And
grand.
I'm going to go invest it in myself. My recommendation to the young guy was going to be put half of it into your mind, put the other half of it into your brand and infrastructure of your business, and start thinking like you're already at a $5-10 million level. And that investment, you'll be asking what to do when I got $1 million in cash in 5 years. So Chris, I want to go right back into that
Yep.
conversation about why investing. You host masterminds, and I promise you that's because you attended so many more than you've probably hosted. Um, why is investing in education right now so important in
Yep.
business, even in blue collar?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so to answer your question was, repeat that question one more time.
So where we left off before the intro was you were saying I would
Why is
invest the money in your
education
mind.
Yeah.
And I want to unpack that on a granular level for people saying, okay, I got 10, 20, 30K. I want to invest it in my mind. I'm going to take you guys' advice. Who, what, when, where, why? What do I do with it?
Yep. First off, I would tell you, I'm only going to tell you things that I have experience of and from that I've personally done. I'm not going to give you any fluff or bullshit. When I was 22 years old, I was so hungry to be successful and do something with my life. At 22, I actually borrowed and took out a loan from the bank for $25,000 to go do a personal development seminar, coaching. It was a big package on doing different things. I joined the mastermind with that, and it was their most expensive package. I was 22. My wife thought I was crazy, and maybe I was. And I would tell you guys, first off, you probably got to be a little crazy to be an entrepreneur, because you're going to do things that are just not normal. You're going to take risks that are just not normal to the average person. You are going to have to work unlike an average person. You're going to have to take on risk unlike an average person. This is not an average life. You can be a common man and do this, but you're going to have to do uncommon things. So with that said, I can personally tell you at 22, I took out a loan for $25,000 and went all in. I wanted, and this is while I was in college. I was a junior in college. I didn't feel like I was getting the information I really wanted to learn from college at UL here in Lafayette, and did that and went all in on personal development. And I probably went all in on personal development because I was such a degenerate from 17 to 22. I had actually just got out of rehab when I was 22. I had been on Adderall and Ritalin since I was 6 years old, which for you parents that are out there, do not give your kids any of that garbage. It's absolute trash of a drug that's the predator class, which I say is the pharmaceutical companies that prey on kids that are hyperactive, and those kids aren't slow. Those kids aren't ADD. That's all made up bullshit. Those kids vibrate on a different frequency. That's your movers and shakers. That's your prime movers. And I can tell you that without a shadow of a doubt, because all the masterminds that I've attended and listened to big time entrepreneurs, it's a common thread. Literally, I'd say more times out of not 80% of the time, these guys barely passed high school. They were labeled ADD, dyslexic, barely did well in school, but yet they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and in some cases, billions of dollars. How is that possible if they had learning disabilities and they were supposedly dyslexia and ADD and all that, right? So I'll preface it with that. You're going to be a little off if you have this thing inside of you that shakes you and moves you to want to be more, do more, and have more. You might be an entrepreneur, right? And entrepreneurs are only around, I'd say 10% of the population, but out of that 10% of the population, 3% are actually truly become successful because this shit's so hard. So if you don't shield yourself and put the right information in your mind early on, dude, you're going to set yourself up for failure. And when I say right information, I don't mean what your college professor, liberal college professor at that tells you based off of theory and not actuality of real true experience. This shit is a lot harder than you think. You're going to have sleepless nights. it'll kick you in the teeth, and it'll knock the wind out of your sails. And if you don't have the mental fortitude to do it, I would tell you right now, just stop watching this podcast, finish your your 4-year college degree, or go to trade school and go, yeah, go work for somebody. Because I'm not the guy that's gonna tell you, oh yeah, burn the boats, be an entrepreneur. This shit's for everybody. Anybody can do it. Absolute horseshit. Not everybody can do this. It took me a while to figure that out. I thought everybody was like me. I even tried to get some of my sons to be entrepreneurs. And listen, just because they come from your body does not mean that they're going to be able to do what you do. Because, like I said, once again, this shit is so hard. Sure. It'll be some of the most scary times in your life, but some of the most rewarding times if you can make it go right. So with that said, if I hadn't scared the shit out of you by now, what you need to do is go all in on skills and knowledge. And I mean real business skills. And these real business skills and knowledge are not going to be from your professor at school. It's going to be from real operators, people that own real businesses. And a lot of them don't even have college degrees. Some of them could probably hardly read and write, not good with technology, but they're absolute prime movers. They're what you call high Ds if you've taken the DISC test. They are drivers. They move people. They're leaders. So with that said, when I was 22, after I got out of rehab from being addicted to Adderall and Ritalin, because my parents put me on Adderall and Ritalin at 6 years old, and because I was just I was full of energy and I couldn't sit still. I was physically addicted to meth, and that's all Adderall is. So don't put your kids on that shit. It's better to just homeschool them. So by the time I was 22, what happened? I went and did a rehab, and I got back my life, and I felt like I was who I am again, and that primed me to go all in personal development, and that's when I went frick. I quit hanging out with a bunch of fucking losers, my friends from high school, college. I was still partying. At 22, I literally put my head down and I went all in personal development. Every penny I made, I rolled it back into books, courses, seminars, coaches. And dude, I still do that to this day. Maybe not as much as I did from, I'd say 22 to probably 35. I put on a lot of more seminars now and do a lot of coaching now because I've been at this for 20 years, 22 years to be specific. So I tell a young kid out there, go all in. Go all in with your mindset. Go all in with skills and knowledge, and join these masterminds. Get a coach. It baffles me that some people get into real estate and business and they don't hire a coach. They think they're too good to pay somebody to be a coach, but yet they go and play sports and they have a coach. They go and I ask people, man, when you played football and baseball, did you have a coach? Well, of course, Chris, as a sport. Okay, well, real estate and business and entrepreneurship is a sport. And it is probably the most rewarding sport that you can ever play, because the life cycle of being an entrepreneur is way longer than the life cycle of an athlete, because your body wears out over time. But as an entrepreneur, you don't really wear out. You get better. This is why the NFL players, they call it not for long, right? They play for maybe 3 years and they have to quit because their body is destroyed. Whereas as a business owner and entrepreneur, if you don't quit and you come at it again, you get smarter and better when you come back at it again. So
no, absolutely. I think I think it's polar opposite of a professional athlete, because not a lot for them. They depend on their body. They fast track the degradation of their body. Of course, there's tons of new science and holistic ways to prolong physical body, but your body's going to age. Right. With time, your mind that grows.
Yep.
And so, as an entrepreneur, maybe when you're physically not at your prime, you at your dang prime mentally most of the time, unless you get to Joe Biden's age, then maybe you're not at your prime. But 60s, bro, you should be ready to rock if you invest in your mindset early. And just to put a lid on that part of the show, I know Nick's got something he wants to ask, but what Chris was saying is hey, before you jump into doing this, before you invest anything even into your mindset, you have to make sure you have the intestinal fortitude to become an entrepreneur. Like be okay, get really comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Yep.
be unoffendable, get your mindset right. Understand that you're gonna get your ass kicked more days than you're gonna win. Get used to all that, and then when you get to that point, bro, just yesterday we had, or today's Friday, Wednesday, we had somebody come in here. Guy messaged me through my social media and said, I want to start a generator company. And look, he's going to watch this, and I don't care. This is 100% true. I won't even edit any part of it out. He said, I've been watching your content. I want to start a generator company. He's from Texas. He's like, what do I have to do? I said, well, first of all, before I give you any information, I'll give it to you. I'll give you my whole playbook. I want to see how invested you are. You driving distance from here, come to my office, shadow me for a day, and I want to know what you're about. If I think you're a prime mover, I'll give you the playbook, because the problem is that 99% of people will not actually go do it,
That's
which
right.
is the Hormozy effect that he had. Alex Hormozy right now will give you every single step to every part of being an entrepreneur you need to know, because he knows 99% of y'all are effing lazy. So the 1% is going to take the knowledge. Man, pay the money and get in the room. If you're a contractor and the only coach that you could afford to have access to is a guy who coaches in a real estate space, man, it ain't about the what, it's about the how. So get in the room with that guy, because he's going to get you in the room with another guy and another guy. Before you know it, you're sitting in a room with a multi-million-dollar home builder that started out with a hammer, nails, and a truck. So prime movers, dude, it's 1%. We pack up, we get together in a room. I don't care what you do. I could take SOPs, strategy, concepts from a multi-million dollar real estate investor and apply it into a pressure washing, car washing. It doesn't matter. It's not the what, it's the methodology. Once you get that rolling, then you could step up into rooms who are A players in exactly what you do, and like really take off to the next level.
Yeah.
So get in the room, pay the money, pursue the mentor, get in the damn mastermind. That is going to exponentially move you forward.
Well, I like to say, I like to say you don't need more brains. You need more balls to be an entrepreneur. You ain't got to be that smart. I mean, you can't be no dummy, but you got to be too stupid to quit, right? Because this shit's going to require more balls than brains.
I mean, you're running right into the question I was going to mention. You kind of alluded about success and to keep trying and to talk about some of the, I think a lot of people get into entrepreneurship and then they fail or something doesn't go right. And that failure part really scares them or moves them away. Kind of like you just mentioned, man, having the balls to get at it, not quitting, being too stupid to give up.
Yep.
But talk about some of the, if you want mine, share some of the pitfalls and the understanding of coming back and trying again and getting knowledge from that.
Yeah.
Chris, I would love to kind of hear some.
You have to set up your mindset right now to be okay with failing, because that's part of the journey. I mean, more of the businesses that I've started have failed than have been successful. But the cool thing is, you only need, one or two good business ideas to really take off, to do well, right? In this business, a lot of it's, split testing, measuring, adapting, and changing to the market environment, the market cycles, what's needed and wanted in the marketplace, and trying different things without blowing yourself up. You don't have to go all in and fucking take out $1 million loan and start a business. You can be smart about it, right? You can market for that business, see what the demand is in that area that you want, and maybe you spend 5-10 grand in doing some market research. You figure out there is strong demand, then you start a business. I think there's a lot of guru shit on social media. Burn the bridge, burn the boats, and just go all in. No, that's for stupid people. When I was 20 years old, that might have been inspired me. But as I've gotten older and wiser and smarter, you gotta have some balls, but you gotta mix that up with brains now too. You want to figure out what's needed and wanted in your market. Figure out what's working. for you young guys that are probably listening to this right now, what's needed and wanted is the service trades. We are oversupplied right now with college degrees that don't mean shit anymore. That nobody gives a shit if you got a college degree. Matter of fact, I mean, if you got a college degree, you probably have to be deprogrammed from that college degree because you've been indoctrinated by college to teach you shit that's not pertinent to real life, to really moving the needle to making money. Because I'd say one of the biggest scams of the 21st century right now is a college degree. I think it's maybe 2.3 trillion. Don't quote me. It's something around it. 2.3 trillion dollars of student debt right now that can't be paid off. We've been sold a bill of goods that we have to send our kids to college to, so they can be somebody, when we have stopped supplying the demand and need for trades, the people that actually move and built America. And now we have a shortage. The average tradesman right now is 55 years old, and we don't have anybody to replace these guys because everybody went to college. So the opportunity, that tells you right now, the opportunity is, if I'm a young man right now, I'm straight out of high school, I'm 18, 19 years old, I'm going to probably either go to trade school or I'm going to go apprenticeship under a master plumber, a master HVAC, somebody, electrician, a generator company like you guys, a carpenter. Get into the trades because the labor rate is going to continue to go up because of the shortage of the supply and demand. Look, I started in the trades. I mean, when I was 22, I started an oil change business and an auto glass business out of the back of my truck when I was in college, and I scaled that to 4 locations. But it wasn't as good as it is now because there was a lot of tradesmen back then, 20 years ago. Now there's a shortage, and the labor rate, when I got in the mechanic business, the labor rate was 35 to 45 bucks an hour. The labor rate now is $145 an hour, and it's going to continue to go up because we're losing the supply of people that can actually get shit done and work with their hands, but the demand keeps going up.
Sure. That was exactly what I wrote next, to go into trades. So we'll have Chris's bio in the show notes for sure if you watch this on YouTube or whatever. But I really want to go down this trades path. But I want to say Chris's bio: $40 million real estate portfolio. Started off in mobile mechanic services, oil change, glass repair. Grew that into 4 mechanic shop locations, and now just recently, if it's okay for me to say, um, partner with some guys that open an HVAC shop in his area. And so that's where I want to go in the trades is, I would say that's what I've done for 20 years. The reason I got into residential power generation was I wanted to get out of the oil field, but I spent the first part of my career crawling around inside engines. And so the generator business naturally fit well for me. What I think I had to learn was, all I did was sell B2B for 17 years. I had to learn customer service on a whole new level. And I realized that the key to any trades business, strategy wise, is consistently offer world-class customer service, because the likelihood of your competitors consistently doing that is probably not very high.
Yep.
And so if you can literally foster a culture where the technician is edified and the customer is edified and the owner gets paid in the arbitrage of those two things, you can legitimately build a successful trades business. So how do I get started? He said apprenticeship, trade school. I'm going to tell you, as a mechanic guy, go and sweep somebody's flipping shop for the cheapest rate you can, because you have no debt. You shouldn't have any debt. You need enough money to probably pay your truck note, get gas and some ramen noodles every week, and go live at your mom's house and sweep somebody's freaking shop and ask 1.5 trillion questions a day, be able to retain information in whatever way you need to, and then keep pushing the needle. And within 3 years, no BS, you've been making 6 figures. And then at that point, where the next part of the show I want to go into is, when you turn that 6 figures into 7, 8 years in this trade and you killing it, what do you do with your money? And that's what I want to, when we get to that point, we'll cap the show on real estate investing. But Chris, talk about what I just said about the trades, why you got into it, vertically integration. What have you learned from the blue collar aspect? What has COVID did to the industry? Let's just go straight home service business for a little while.
Yeah, well, look, I wasn't very good at school. When I had graduated high school, I graduated from a private Catholic school. I could hardly read and write. I just wasn't good at school. Like, for one, because I was on, uh, prescription drugs, and I was doing regular drugs too. So I just wasn't that great at school. Plus, I got my girlfriend, my wife, now pregnant when I was a junior in high school. So it was a shit show coming out of high school. But I went straight to college. Was partying a lot. I couldn't figure out what I really wanted to do. Kept jumping majors and learning stuff. And to me, when I was listening to some of these professors and talking about algebra 2 and algebra 1, and then even when I tried to get into some entrepreneur classes, the professors were talking about the theory behind entrepreneurship and starting a business was outside of the actuality that he never even started a business. So I had enough cognitive awareness that my bullshit meter is pretty high, and I was like, these guys are full of shit, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go and start a business. So I started thinking of ideas of what can I do, right? And that's what I would tell you guys. Because if you're going to be a prime mover, it all starts with the thought right here, the thought process, how you start thinking about things. And I truly believe whatever you focus on and whatever you think about, you will attract in your life. If all you think about is girls, guess what? Then you're probably going to be at the club all the time. If all you think about is drugs, then you're going to probably be on drugs all the time. But if all you think about is how to make money and how to be an entrepreneur and how to start a business, things are going to start moving around you and shaping your reality around that, because whatever you focus on, you're going to attract. So I'll tell you, young guys, you got to get this right first. You got to change your thought process, and got to start also attracting what you want. So at 22, I started thinking hard, and that's all I would think about is like, how and what business should I start? And I just kept moving and thinking, and unbeknownst to me, one day I'm working for my dad in the oil field, and he sends me to go get the oil change in one of his diesel trucks. It was supposed to be a quick lube. I get there, and people are complaining because they've been there 30, 45 minutes. It's supposed to be a 10-minute oil change. And a light bulb went off in my head because I'm still thinking about what can I do, because I have no skills. I literally have zero skills. I was like, I bet you if I made some business cards and I went and meet these people where they work or at their home, they wouldn't have to even bring their vehicle in. I could change their oil and maybe wash their car on site and charge a premium because of the service of me bringing it to them versus them having to go meet somebody at a business. It would save them a lot of time, and it might be something that would work. So I talked to my dad about it. He's like, yeah, shit, that's a good idea, son. Why don't you try it out? So I borrowed $100 from my dad, and I bought a set of filter wrenches and tools and a catch bin to catch the oil. I didn't even know how to change oil. I knew how to wash cars and stuff. I knew how to do that. So my dad let me change the oil in his diesel truck. That was the first oil change. And then I was like, shit, this is pretty simple. Just oil and filter and top, and make sure you put the right amount of oil. So I started handing out cards all over the place here in Lafayette at all these fleet accounts with the oil field. And I started picking up accounts. I'd go to all the businesses and say, hey, look, I'll come and wash your car, change your oil so you can't leave. And sure enough, it took off like wildfire. And I started, changing 5, 10, 15 oil changes in a day, going to people in between. Well, but keep in mind, in between while I was at UL at college, I was taking like 12, 15 hours, and I'd wear a jumpsuit. So I'd go back to my afternoon class. I'd be freaking full of oil, and people looking at me like I was crazy. And that goes into a whole nother topic of, you're going to have to get out of your own way about what people think about you, because, you're going to get talked about if you want to be an entrepreneur and build wealth and make money. That's a whole nother topic. But I I started a business around, first, the mindset of thinking about it. Secondly, seeing and being cognitively aware of what's needed and wanted. And three, what was the least barrier to entry with the least amount of risk, right? Because what could go wrong? How could I lose if this don't work out? What, I owe my dad $100? Whoopie do. So I tell you that the easiest and fastest barrier to entry with the highest success rate is in the work that people don't want to do, and the work that most kids that want to go to college and get an office job don't want to do, especially now. And that's what started off my entrepreneur career. And once I started doing that, and let me preface it with this also, you're going to have an insane work ethic. This 40-hour work week bullshit, listen, I remember when I had a part-time job. Still to this day, I probably put in 80 hours a week. That's no bullshit. I work every day, not because I have to, because I want to. It's how I'm wired. It's how I'm built. Yeah, I love this shit. This shit is ingrained in me. I'm a true blue entrepreneur. This is my sport. I don't fucking hang around and watch LSU and Alabama and argue who's the better coach or what play they should have did. That's for the fucking peasants, guys. That's for the normal people. And no disrespect to those people if that's what they want. But I don't want to be a spectator. I want to be in the game. So you're going to have an insane work ethic to the degree that it almost looks like you're crazy. Now, once I started that oil change and car wash business, you must learn how to diversify, right? And start adding and vertically integrating other services that complement the main service. The main service was on-site oil change. With then I added car wash, then I added detail work like waxing and leather conditioner, leather clean, carpet shampoo. I started having all these bolt-on services that just kept stacking my ticket to make it higher and higher. And then I was like, what else can I do to stack my ticket? And I was like, okay, let me get into auto glass. I started doing rock chip repair. Then I hired a guy to help me show me how to do windshield replacement and auto glass replacement. And I got hooked up with the insurance. That really took me up to the next level. By the time I graduated college, I had made $130,000 doing this part-time on-site oil change, car wash, and windshield auto glass replacement. And from there, it just took off. And I realized that hey, I can't do this on-site thing forever. If I'm gonna really scale this thing, I need physical locations. And that kind of dovetails into how I got into real estate, and I became a real estate investor at 25, 26 by not intentionally or knowingly flipping my first house that I had built when I was 25 to use as a down payment to buy my first large commercial building, which was a big, large quick lube mechanic shop on Johnson Street here in downtown Lafayette, and one of the busiest intersections in my area. But that we can get into that too. That's kind of what started my real estate career and meshing real estate investing with being an entrepreneur, which really took me to the next level, because if you can be a real estate investor and a blue collar tradesman and own the real estate that you actually run your office out of, it can really hyper drive your success and your net worth, because you start getting the depreciation, not paying taxes. There's a lot of different things you need to know to be successful, but also you got to learn how to avoid taxes legally, morally, and ethically. But if you have any questions before I get into the real estate side of it, I don't want to hog the whole podcast.
You're good, man. No, it's a lot. Look, I hope anybody watching or listening replay this, because you may even have to slow it down. Like if you listen to audiobooks, slow this crap down to 0.75, because there's so many nuggets that Chris said that if you really unpack them, it is the recipe to get rolling, get started. But yeah, I do want to move into real estate side, because blue collar guys over the next 10 years, I believe, are going to make more money than they've ever made in their life.
Well, the blue collar is going to start turning white.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. I know
Sure.
plumbers that make more money than doctors right now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Look, what I didn't say was, if you start sweeping somebody's shop, by the time you're making 50, 60 grand a year, your partners are just going to, for everybody not in the South, that's your partners, your friends. Your partners are going to be graduated college with some ridiculous degree that they're going to be 50, 60, 100, $200,000 in debt. You can be making 50, 60 grand a year with no debt. So right. You tell me, what do you want, what end result you trying to get, and I'll tell you the shortcut to get there. That's what mentorship, masterminds are all about. And so blue collar guys, you're going to make a bunch of money. I'm telling you from experience, don't do what I did with it, which was useless, mindless BS early on in my career. Immediately take the money and put it in a place that your money can work for you. And so where I'm going with my career is one of the reasons I pursued Chris is that's where I want to go with the next phase of my career is taking the wealth that the blue collar business has brought me and roll into real estate. Now, so I do want to talk about your masterminds, your coaching, and your real estate business.
Yeah. Well, I want to preface also because there's so many things. I mean, I could talk for hours and hours, but another thing that really made me successful when I was younger too is I mastered marketing and sales. And I say not less, really not marketing more than sales because I was doing a lot of, door to door sales, dropping off, handing off cards. But I didn't, back then you didn't have Facebook ads in 2005, right? Or Google ads, or maybe you did, but I didn't know about it. So I wasn't the best marketer, but I was good at just doing business to business, belly to belly, handing out business cards because that's a whole nother thing. You could be the most badass technician or badass blue tradesman, but if you don't know the business behind the business of understanding marketing and sales, that's one key fundamental I didn't say that really put me above and beyond everybody else's. Dude, I was an animal at going and promoting my business, handing out cards everywhere I went. I talked to people. I'd make sure to let them know, hey, come to my shop, or hey, this is what I do. You have to become a billboard of self-promotion, right? So that's one thing I want you younger guys to understand. You can't just be good at being a generator tech or be good at being an HVAC tech. You got to be good at business too. So get good at marketing and sales also, but also understand the operation side, because if you don't understand the operation side, you can't navigate your business in a manner that is successful also. But if you want to talk about the real estate side real quick, I can dovetail into that because
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's very important for you young guys that you don't listen. Your body's going to wear out too. You can't be an operator forever, right? By the time when I started my first, when I bought my first Quick Lube on Johnson Street, I had, it was an $860,000 purchase price. I got an SBA loan when I was 25 years old. I needed $126,000 to start, or to put the down payment to get that loan. I didn't have the money. Well, it lined up perfectly right before the 2007 real estate crash. I had built a house, I think 3 or 4 years prior to that when I was like 21, a little spec house. Well, I had enough cognitive awareness to know, hey, our house is almost damn near, increased double in value. And I was like, well, we're going to hurry and put our house to sale, and hopefully we can sell it because everything around us doubled and the market's hot. I put my house to sale and I sold it 30 days later, and I made 125,000, almost to the T, exactly what I needed for the down payment on an SBA loan 3 months prior to the 2007, 2008 real estate crash. Some of you guys are too young to remember that, probably in grade school, but it was really nasty. And I timed it perfectly. And that goes into another thing of understanding market cycles and timing. And, things go up and they go down. You have to understand all this to be a successful entrepreneur and real estate investor. But I timed that perfectly. I rolled that 25,000 into buying my first physical location. But prior to that, I'd actually leased out a shop. So I take that back. That was my second shop. The first shop I leased out on Moss Street on the north side of Lafayette, and did really, really well. And but I wanted to get another second shop. So I that's when I bought my second shop and I flipped my house. Then I bought a piece of land that I flipped and made 40 grand and used that for a down payment on another shop. Then I had bought a foreclosure that I lived in, I think 16 months, 18 months, fixed it up, lived in that for a little while, flipped that, made 70, 80 grand. Then I went and used that for another down payment. So I used the real estate flipping game to scale my Quick Lube mechanic shop auto glass business. And I ended up having like 4 locations by the time I was 26 years old, 27 years old. Got so busy with that, had 33 employees, 4 locations. I was making a lot of money as a young man. I was probably making, $400,000 or $500,000 a year between all 4 locations, and I was getting it. I was working every weekend, having babies at the same time. It was a lot of fast moving pace in my life at that time. And I did that for probably about 6, 7 years. I did that till I was about 10 years. I did that till I was about 33, 34. And I got burnt out. I was like, this is not where I see myself, working every weekend. By this time I had my 5th kid. My wife had a nervous breakdown because she, she's like, dude, you keep getting me pregnant and you're never home. And it was a reality check. And I was like, well, she ain't lying. And by that time, 2014 came and we had a huge oil field crash. Oil went from $128 a barrel to $28 a barrel. And this leads up to another pertinent point, and it's the point of learning how to pivot off a crisis. Crises make you pivot, and there's nothing wrong with being scared and having to pivot because it forces you to level up and build new skill sets. And that's when that happened. My revenue at my shop started going down every quarter because Lafayette and surrounding areas was getting devastated by losing all these awesome oil field jobs, and I was losing a lot of fleet accounts for my quick lube. They were all going out of business and moving back to Texas. So I was like, shit, I got to do something. And I got to a point where I was actually losing $20,000 a month with all my shops. And I was on the verge of bankruptcy. And I had to really have a come to Jesus moment. And and my wife didn't know this at the time because we had our fifth kid. And I told myself, I'm like, I have to do something. Like, what can I do? And I reflected what got me here. And I was like, real estate got me here. Real estate can take me to the next level. So I started deep diving a bunch of real estate. I watched a bunch of YouTube stuff on real estate investing, and I kept seeing this wholesaling thing, wholesaling real estate, flipping properties without actually owning. I'm like, what the hell is wholesaling real estate? I actually watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I ended up wholesaling a property on my own just off of YouTube University, and I made $2,500. I'm like, shit, while I'm still running my shops, by the way, part-time. So I was like, shit, there's something to this. So I actually hired 3 mentors back to back to back. First mentor, I gave him $5,000. Guy named Fabian. He actually stole $50,000 from me. First mentor. I had him arrested. He's out of California, Fabian Calvo. You can look him up. He actually wasn't a bad guy. But just by the time I had hired him, he got on opiates, and he had a bunch of people that loved him. But I guess I timed it wrong, and he had my credit card on file and American Express, and he was charging stuff for like the past 6 months, and my CPA finally caught it, or my bookkeeper caught it because he would just charge a little bit at a time once a month. Anyway, he stole $50,000 from me. I had him arrested. Then I hired 2 more mentors back to back. They were great. I crushed the program, and they showed me the exact thing I needed to do to start crushing wholesaling. So I literally started making 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I even made 80, and I had 1 6-figure month while I was still running all my shops. And I remember when I started making real good money, I'm like, dude, this is it. I'm making $50,000, $60,000 a month by myself with no employees. I had a light bulb go off my head. I'm like, do you know how many oil change, brake jobs, and tune-ups I got to do in auto glass to make $50,000 net with all the headache and turmoil and labor and problems and mess ups? I'm like, I told my manager, I had a meeting with him. I said, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to do real estate full time. I handed him all the keys to the shop. I said, don't call me unless somebody dies. And I just put my head down. I didn't even go back to my shops. I literally let them run. They weren't making any money anyway, and I just went full time real estate. I started making real good money wholesaling, and then eventually put all my shops to sale, sold all of them but one, made a big rip on a couple of them, and started just rolling all of my profits in the real estate. And just for the sake of time, fast forward, 10 years later, where I sit today, I started that business out of the back of my truck, putting out bandit signs, "We buy houses," the same way I started that business in 2005 in college at UL, going hand out cards. I did the same shit with real estate. I was putting out hundreds of bandit signs, and I built from where I was there, and then vertically integrated the same way I did with the first business, diversifying from starting with wholesaling, then flipping. And then I was so good at what I was doing, my coaches asked me to go work in their sales department to help enroll people because I was their top student. I was posting checks, all the money I was making, and all the students were asking me for help anyway, where they asked me to go work in their sales department. So I got to see the back end of a coaching company. And I was like, well, shit, I'm sitting there selling for them. They paying me like 10, 12 grand a month to sell for them. So that's helping mitigate. Let me back up. Wholesaling and that sales job working for them actually saved me from going bankrupt. It helped me cover my losses because I was losing 20,000 until a month until I sold off all my shops. Then I realized I was better at this than my coaches, and that they were they had a degree of bullshitness to them, and I was more skilled as an entrepreneur than both of them put together. And I had the realization that I was better at this and I could help a lot of people. And then 2 years later, I eventually started my own coaching company. And then I started partnering up with the best students in the best markets that I wanted to be across the U.S. And I scaled from, wholesaling and flipping locally to Baton Rouge, to Florida, to Texas, to, Indiana. I'm all over the country now with the best partners, Mobile, Alabama, and built a nice portfolio of mobile. And then I started making a ton of money, and I had a tax problem. I started investing into, mobile home parks, short-term vacation rentals on the beach. I own a bunch of beach properties. As a matter of fact, we closed on a condo in Destin today at 11 o'clock that I got to leave straight here to go sign off on. That's I think our seventh beachfront property that we've bought in the past 10 years. And I own 16 mobile home parks. I develop neighborhoods. And so I'm telling you guys that because you want to, back to it, 2014, it forced me to pivot. But you also can't get stuck in the blue collar trades. You got to make your money in business, and you got to invest it and save it in real estate. And you jostle between that for long enough to where you can go from full-time operator blue collar to full-time operator real estate investor. But the cool thing is the trades have gotten so good lately that I'm actually going from getting out of the trades, being full-time real estate investor and building a lot of net worth wealth. Now I'm going back in the trades because they've become so lucrative. And I actually started an HVAC company here recently because we already, back to vertically integrating. I already spend 6 figures a year in HVAC. Why wouldn't I just start an HVAC company? I know everybody in town. I know all the real estate investors. I could literally, get hooked up with them and get a lot of business and cheat legally, morally, and ethically without having to start or buy a business and get into a bunch of debt, which goes back to vertically integrating with my real estate, like I did when I started my oil change business, like I did when I started my real estate company doing wholesaling, when I started flipping. You have to start thinking like this. How can I make the main thing, but have spokes? If you look at a wheel and you got spokes on the wheel, you make the hub. The main thing is the main thing. Whatever you do, that is your primary income source. Then you got spokes in the wheel. Those spokes are vertically integrated services that you can offer that are symbiotic to what you're already doing to help drive revenue so you can be more successful. And that's been the secret to my success, is being vertically integrated, diversified inside the main thing. And frankly speaking, just having an insane work ethic and taking calculated risk and not being scared and getting away from people that are just screwed up, right? I don't have friends. My whole brand is allies. No friends, only allies. My best friends are the people I do business with, the people that support me, the people that I support them. I'm helping them make money and build wealth. I'm helping them feed their family. They're doing the same thing to me. I don't hang out with friends from high school or college and drink and smoke weed and argue about LSU and Alabama. So that's kind of the 50,000 foot view. I took up a lot of the time. I apologize for doing that, but that's kind
No,
of
man,
me.
no, that was basically a master class in and of itself.
Yeah.
I, I'm gonna go back and rewatch this 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
man. I think there was so much. You made so much sense in there as far as vertical integration to what you're doing, looking at the next step, kind of like looking at your next 5 moves, where you go from here. And I like the idea that you said you went from blue collar into white collar, and then realizing just the opportunity in blue collar is bringing you right back to almost the beginning again, kind of coming full circle.
Yep.
Bro, I'm glad we got to that point because I normally could tell when a podcast is going to work really good when it transitions very well, and that's where I'm going next 5 moves. So let me dip back to the beginning of the show where I said pursue mentors. Sometimes you might be in a position where, like everybody gets caught in freaking useless, mindless scrolling on their phone, looking at dumb stuff. Well, there are people out there that if you're going to use your damn phone, get an education on it. A mentor doesn't have to be in the room with you all the time. I look up a lot to Patrick Bet-David. I love his philosophy, his style, his take on politics, the way he communicates. I believe he sees patterns, and I've always wondered why I was good at seeing patterns and interrupting patterns, and he explains that and personifies that so well. So He wrote a book called Your Next Five Moves. And on every show, I ask, from Chris Rood's perspective, give an entrepreneur, you pick the level, entry level, maxed out, at a pivot point, whatever, and give them Chris Rood's next five moves.
I would tell you, first and foremost, the opportunities in the blue trades. I'm excited about this HVAC company we're starting. I am excited about development because of what happened during COVID. We have a bottleneck, and we have a bottleneck with interest rates. A lot of people sitting on the sidelines before they buy a house. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in new build construction development going in the foreseeable future. That is if, and it's going to be very controversial, but I mean it's the truth. And if you're not paying attention to this, your head's in the sand and you watch too much CNN. We're on the precipice of a major shift in this country, or a major catastrophe of political divide that we haven't seen since 1861, the War of Secession, right? The Civil War. Because we have so much political divide, I am being very cautious about my next moves on a timeline, waiting to see what happens after the election. I'm not making any big moves until after the election. I want to see what's going to happen with Trump. I do believe that it was stolen. They cheated. They took it from Trump. I mean, anybody with any brains can figure that out. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, and I think they will do anything possible to keep him from getting into power. I think we're in the modern day Bolshevik revolution. If you understand history, I study a lot of history. See all these books. I mean, I read every morning. I study a lot of history. If you understand the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, what happened in Russia, you're seeing that in modern day time here in America. They're trying to get rid of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and roll out a new world order of communism, soft communism disguised as socialism, but it's pure hardcore communism with the cultural degradation and getting rid of religion and mixing up the races and religions and making us all fight each other, getting little boys to question if they're a boy or a girl. This is all straight out of the playbook of the Bolshevik Revolution. So I ain't no dummy to history. I know what's going on. There's a high probability, and I hate to say this, we're going to probably have possibly a civil war, or at best, a lot of civil unrest. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring back the old Mason-Dixon line. And hell, I wouldn't be upset if they do. Bring back the old Mason-Dixon line. All the smartest people are moving to the South anyway. If you look at all the big time business owners and people, my wife follows some of these influencers, they're all moving to Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. The smartest people are getting out of New York and California, all these liberal states, and moving to the South. So I'm down to do that. I hope that doesn't happen. I love my country. I don't wish that upon it. But if you study history, you study geopolitics and where we're at in the debt cycle, how much debt we have, how much political instability, how much corruption we have, I'm not that very optimistic that it's not going to be a catastrophe here soon. So I want to make sure to preface it with that first. I ain't doing anything until we get past the election and the country stabilizes as far as my 5 next big moves. But I do think, without a shadow of a doubt, the blue collar trades are going to crush no matter what happens, because even if the shit gets into a nasty confrontation, people still need their plumbing done. They still need HVAC. They still need generators. They still need construction. So I would get into things that are needed and wanted. I would stay away from things with high returns, like, you saw this shit with drop shipping, Amazon, metaverse, NFTs, all this bullshit they tried to sell people. I warned people for the past 8 years to stay away from that bullshit. Get into things that are hard, right? That are hard assets, that are hard labor, that's going to sustain itself in these turbulent times that are going to come. But that development, I'm always going to stay working on myself, personal development, new skills, building my brand. If you're not building a brand in the 21st century on social media, you're not paying attention. I'm going to continue to build my brand so I can get more reach, get more followers. I've been able to raise $46 million, from building a brand on social media because people know, like, and trust me because they see all the deals I'm doing and I share my life and with everybody. And it's a good and bad thing because people can see the inside of your life, but you also get the benefit of people wanting to do business with you. So that I would tell you that's the fourth thing, first blue collar, second development, three personal development, four personal branding. And I would say my fifth and last move, I would say, is I would get really, really good at raising private money. And I am raising a shit ton of private money right now, not because I needed it, because you don't wait to raise private money. You raise private money and you wait. Because I think if I didn't have the cognitive awareness in 2008 to know what I know now, if I were Chris Rood in this time and I was 43 in 2008, I guarantee I'd be worth a couple $100 million because I just didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't have the cognitive awareness to know to buy at the bottom of the cycle. I know people that bought houses in Phoenix for $35,000 and sold them for $550,000, 12 years later. So you got to understand market cycles, where you're at in the market cycle. You don't you don't necessarily have to have a lot of money. You got to have access to private money, and being able to raise private money is a freaking superpower. And I can raise millions of dollars at the blink of an eye because people trust me, and I built a brand, and I'm a good operator, and I'm trustworthy, and I do the right thing, and I have a track record. So get good at raising private money, and the way you get good at raising private money is you become a good operator and you become a man of substance and a man of integrity and somebody that people can trust with their money who want to invest with you.
Slam dunk.
Yeah.
Slam dunk. Absolute slam dunk. I love it, man. Look, we at about an hour, and we like to kind of keep these things at this point because we want people to get a ton of value and not get asleep at the wheel listening to these podcasts. I know for me, I love podcasts, but the ones that go 2.5 hours, bro, I'm like, okay, I got to tap out. So I think it was jam packed with value. That's why I said slam dunk. Um, Last but not least, where can people find you? How do you want to be searched? Handles, Instagram, email, phone number, whatever.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on social media, I put out content on entrepreneurship and real estate all day, at Real Estate Rood on Instagram, or Chris Rood Entrepreneur on Instagram. I have a couple of different handles. And then on Facebook, Chris Rood. And then I have my business page also, Chris Rood Entrepreneur, where I put out content, do Facebook Lives. I'm on LinkedIn at Chris Rood. Go to my YouTube, Chris Rood Entrepreneur. I put out content, long form and shorts every day, on what I'm doing. I'm not very polished. I don't have a camera guy following me around because I think that's pretty, I just think that's, I don't want to say the word, but I'd be disrespectful and ugly, but I think it's not real and organic. I just pull out my phone and video stuff, so it's not as polished as the rest of the influencers out there. I don't fancy myself as an influencer. I fancy myself as an operator, pretending to be an influencer or trying to be. I'm not. I got this real funny Southern Cajun accent, and I'm not polished, but I'm real, and I keep it real on social media for you guys. So I'd say follow me over there, and if you want to come out to one of my allies masterminds that I host every quarter, and I actually have a local mastermind. Yeah, I'd like to have you come on my local mastermind too, man, here in the coming foreseeable future in Lafayette. Reach out to me, inbox me, I answer all of my DMs. I talk to everybody. If you talk to me, I'm going to talk to you. I'm a real guy. I don't. I communicate at a high level, and I want to be around people that are interested in entrepreneurship. That's my jam. That's my people. So follow me there, and let's communicate.
I'll be at the next alliance. I missed the last one. My son had a tournament or something crazy popped up, but I missed the last. I'll be at the next one just because I want to be, and I'm gonna drag Nick with me too because I want to be in the room. We're 2 hours apart, man. I want to be in the room with killers, with lions, with prime movers. So, man, slam dunk of an episode. Thank you for joining us, dude. If I could ever return the favor in any way, you know how to reach me. And let's do some business together. So,
Absolutely.
hey, everybody that's watching, let me put a lid on that by saying, first of all, thanks to Chris. But um, when I got out of my first mastermind, people asked me, hey, what was it about? What was it about? Because because in Louisiana, I'm in a program right now that Governor Jeff Landry puts on regionally called CEO Roundtable. And I realized that our state in a lot of ways is behind the times in terms of marketing, digital assets, and I feel like we've mastered that in our industry. We got a lot to learn, a lot to move forward with, but I was able to master that because of I got in the right rooms. And so that's the message that I want to close with is get in the freaking room. If it costs you money, if it costs you time, at an early age, you should have more of both of those things than anything else in life. Get in the freaking rooms with the right people and let those rooms help you plan with the end in mind, be able to pivot, be able to understand market cycles. That is a fast track education. You're not going to get that in college. And so if you didn't get anything out of this hour, you legitimately asleep at the freaking wheel and you ain't a prime mover. And like 30 seconds in, Chris said, stop listening to this if you're that type of dude. So if you made it this far, I know you got something. So thank you for joining us on another episode of Prime Mover Podcast.